This is a special episode dedicated to the Muslim Cowboy. You're going to have a real fun rodeo for y'all here today.
Howdy, partner.
Oh, howdy. I don't recall him being on my radar at all until yesterday. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see this guy defending child marriage, and I see IP responding to him, and AP's responding to him, and he's just promoting child marriage up a storm, wasn't he?
It's like there's a competition among the Dawa guys to see who can defend the child marriage the most.
Yeah.
Like, they're all like, no, let me do it now. No, let me do it now. It's like it's getting really stupid out there.
Or it's like, who can do it in the dumbest ways?
Because notice, it's like, this is becoming a thing. If you go back 10, 12 years, we were called liars for saying that Islam promotes child marriage, right? Liar, you must be making that up. No, Aisha was 18. Everyone knows this. It's just a 1 week source that says she was not. It's like, what are you talking about? It's all over the place. And there's nothing that says anything else. And so what do we do? What do we do for years? I mean, year after year after year, we're posting the sources and posting the sources and posting the sources. And we're bringing it up in debates. And we're making videos on it. Finally, it gets to like a critical mass where they have to acknowledge it. And all of a sudden, now it's just a thing. Like you're not doing dawah unless you're defending banging little kids. The Muslim Cowboy. You know what I got to do today? I'm going to defend child marriage, so hold on tight to your saddle horse, son. What?
Guys, it's not child marriage because once they start getting a little bit of puberty going on, they're automatically women. So 7, 8-year-olds, 5-year-olds going through precocious puberty, they're women in their eyes. So can't be child marriage. Come on.
Yep, that. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and take a look at his tweet. So this is what he posted today. This is what he posted today. So this is the last thing he posted that I actually got. But I'm honored. The biggest Exian kafir in the world is coming after me. And he is bringing his atheist boy toy. That's weird because AP wasn't even involved at this point. It was me and Inspiring Philosophy.
And the guy's so weird that he can't even, look at the thumbnail and the title and notice that it's David Wood and IP, not David Wood and Apostate Prophet.
I was going to talk about Muhammad getting kissed all over his milky white flesh by one of his companions. But your buddy there, AP, your buddy, the Muslim Cowboy, he brought it up. He's like, hey, boy toy. Okay, let's talk about boy toys there, sport. There we have it. Sunan Abu Dawud, 5224. Abdurrahman ibn Abu Layla, quoting Usaid ibn Hudayr, a man of the Ansar, said that while he was given to jesting and was talking to the people and making them laugh, the Prophet poked him under the ribs with a stick. Ooh. He said, Muhammad poked him with a stick. And he said, let me take retaliation. Muhammad said, oh, you take it, retaliation. You take it all. He said, you are wearing a shirt, but I am not. The Prophet then raised his shirt. So this Muhammad pulls off his garment, and the man embraced him and began to kiss his side. Then he said, this is what I wanted, messenger of Allah. Oh, yeah.
And Muhammad went, oh, it tickles. That's how Muhammad said. Yeah. And the guy was like, come here. I want to kiss more. I want to have more of you. It's beautiful. How about I go a little bit lower? Anyway.
No, you don't realize. So that's like the beginning. And then part 2 is all these passages about Muhammad trying to go to the mosque and he's got semen all over his clothes. Now, again, Muslim Cowboy, we're trying to give you a friendly warning here. We respond in one way towards thoughtful, arguments and objections and so on. We respond a bit differently to people running their mouths and tossing insults around. So I've made you aware that when you start insults, we immediately go back on your prophet with that stuff. So that means that if you do it, you're basically begging us to make fun of your horrible child molesting prophet. Just wanted that to be clear. So someone asked him, yes, explain how having sex with a 9-year-old is okay by anthropology or biology or psychology. So he's saying, okay, explain how it's okay. And the Muslim Cowboy's response is, yes, if she is a woman. And anthropologically, women have become women at 9 all over the world. You really need to study, champ.
What in the world does he think anthropologically actually means here? How does it make sense? Anthropologically, women have become women at the age. What does it even mean? Anthropology would be the study of, of humanity, of all of human history, of all of it. How can you say, well, women have been becoming women at the age of 9, anthropologically speaking, forever? So that's very stupid. Well, you could also say, well, civilizations have been raping each other anthropologically forever. So what's wrong with that?
Yeah, so let's go through a couple of these, and I know IP is gonna object to some of this. So I put that one first, and then so people asked him if this is him, he actually said this, and he said, "Yep, it's me. We support our prophet's marriage to Aisha at 9. No big deal. He's just the pattern of conduct for all people, and has people even in our time defending child marriage because of his example. No big deal." But you heard it from the Muslim Cowboy. She was a woman through and through.
Doesn't that sound disgusting? She was a woman through and through.
Through and through, like through what? What the heck is this guy even talking about? What a pervert, man!
It's beyond stupid. Can you share my screen, David? I'll just put this study up. Oh, this is actually one I got from Daniel Hikikachu, who of course doesn't understand half of what he's saying. But yeah, this is points out. Let me just go down to the graph down here. This is about growth of birth canal in adolescent girls. You can see 9. It's nowhere near ready. You're very, very low percentage at that point. It's not going to be ready until when the CDC says most girls complete puberty, which is between the ages of 15 and 17. And this is based on modern nutrition, of course. So no 8, 9, 10-year-old has a birth canal ready. So they're not a woman physically by any stretch of the imagination.
It's very, very important that you brought up birth canal, because if you look at the Tanner stages and so on, that's the final stage of puberty, when you basically take on the shape of an adult woman. So guys, the people responding to have the mentality, as I pointed out a million times, old enough to bleed, old enough to breed. So if you as soon as you get your first period, ready to hop on you, ready to get with it. Puberty.
It's already too late. Too much waiting until that point already.
They say because puberty is a sign that you're an adult. No, puberty is a process that takes years. There are stages. So if you're talking about a girl, her breasts she'll get they call them buds for breasts and so on. They're not fully grown and so on, but they start. Pubic hair, a menstrual cycle, and the last stage is really, really important for safely bearing children. That's when your hips widen, your birth canal widens, and so on. You start getting them pregnant before then. Notice you can get pregnant as soon as you get a menstrual cycle. You can get pregnant. It's just not safe to get pregnant.
It's not, she's ready? What are you
not
talking
safe
about?
for you to get pregnant because your hips haven't widened.
Well, put the other study on the screen. Put the other study I have on the screen. This one's important. So I showed you the graph showing that girls, their birth canal just simply is not ready. This was a cross-sectional study done in Latin America, and it found after an adjustment for 16 major confounding factors, adolescents aged 15 years or younger had higher risk of maternal death, early neonatal death, and anemia compared with women aged 20 to 24. They note that if you are having a child under the age of 15, you are 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than someone who's 16 or over.
Repeat that one. You'd be very, very clear on that. So you're making the point. Yes, if if you're in the process of puberty at 12 and something, you can get pregnant. It's significantly more dangerous than it is for a girl who's 16 or 18 or something like that. But go ahead and say what you were pointing out.
Yeah, so here's table 4, the adjusted ratios here. You can see that at the bottom, maternal death. 15 and under, you are 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than someone who's 16 or older.
So you're not even talking, just to be clear, you're not even talking about 9. That would be like insanely early. You're talking about even just, you're talking about just under 15. Notice,
15
you can get pregnant. My mom got pregnant with me when she was 15. It can be done. You're pointing out statistically, it's significantly more dangerous the younger you are.
Exactly. And this is one of the reasons that I showed on the last study that I brought up. The birth canal just isn't ready to deliver children. We are a very unique species in that we have produced very large heads. It's hard for women to push out such giant heads compared to like other species. And so women need to be fully mature to actually have children. If you're 15 or under, you're 4 times more likely to die from maternal related complications.
Yeah, just to be clear, and there could be multiple reasons for that, but the most basic reason is if your hips haven't widened and your birth canal hasn't widened, which takes place at the end of puberty, which a girl's never going to get to the way these guys are going. Then you're pregnant and the baby can't get out of you because your birth canal isn't wide enough for the baby to come through. And so it's much, I just want to finish with this. It's much more dangerous for the mother. I mean, it is safer in the world right now in places in the West and in places where you have access to medical care because they can do an emergency C-section and stuff like that. I mean, but you're talking about for centuries, you're dead. You're dead if that happens. So it's dangerous for the mother, dangerous for the baby. And these guys are saying, so what? Bang her anyway.
Basically, what they're doing, right? These Muslim apologists, they're basically like, well, there is a development. A development has begun. There is a sign. Look, I see what appears to be a hair attempting to grow out of this spot of this little girl's, region. Therefore, she's now ready for sex. That's basically what they're doing.
That's what Daniel said in my debate with him. That's what Daniel said in my debate with him in the cross-examination. I was bringing up the whole issue of menarche. Like, do you wait till menarche? He says, no, wait till puberty. And he admitted in the cross-examination section, you can start having sex with a girl, if you marry her, when she starts puberty, even if she's not reached the point of menarche yet, which shows you this is not about his stupid argument, which is about maximizing the fertility window, because you can start having sex with them before the fertility window. So it's all about their sadistic pleasure they want to give to men and pedophiles. It has nothing to do with actual fertility rates or maximizing your birth window. It's all nonsense. This is all done to satisfy sadistic men and their pleasures at the expense of little girls and all the harm they'll suffer. So now let's also talk about the past. So this was pointed out, this study is basically pointing out that in the past, women were actually maturing slower. They were maturing at a slower rate.
Why are you pointing that out, IP? Is it because one of the things we hear from people who are making it up as they go along is that, but in the past, girls matured way faster so that by the time a girl's 9, she's a fully grown adult, that sort of thing?
Yeah, the moronic Dawagandists pushed this nonsense that somehow in the 7th century, a 9-year-old was basically a retired old lady. It's utter nonsense. Actually, it's the opposite. So what Dawagandists will do is they'll find studies that actually do say women in the past did mature quicker. The problem is they don't read the studies. The studies are pointing out that girls during the Paleolithic period were aging faster because of better nutrition. We were hunter-gatherers. We were living off wild game. So girls could reach puberty or the age of menarche at 7, 8, roughly by 10 or 11. However, when we started basically living off agriculture, grains, that was delayed. So you can see this graph down here, the age of menarche starts getting delayed roughly about 5,000 years ago or so. And then it reaches a peak around 1840. So it keeps getting worse, delayed. This study directly says, thus by medieval times, so the time of Muhammad, the average age of menarche was deferred to 16 and a half years, as it remains today among underprivileged adolescents in developing countries. So Aisha, the odds of Aisha having reached the age of menarche in her period, astronomically low. Like beyond, like she'd have to be the 1 in a billion possibilities of that happening. Girls in this period were not reaching the age of menarche till on average around 16, 15, roughly that age. So if you go back to the Paleolithic period, maybe if Muhammad was running around then, they could have made that excuse. But no, during the agricultural period, specifically the medieval period, age of menarche was being delayed to 16 and a half. So girls in this time were actually aging slower than girls are today. It's the exact opposite of what the Dawagandists say.
We say, hey, it's messed up that your prophet, who's the pattern of conduct for mankind, said it's okay to have sex with well, as we're about to see, a prepubescent girl, but with Aisha, it's messed up that your prophet had sex with a 9-year-old girl. And then the response is, but girls in the past matured faster, and they will cite a study. They'll say, oh, yes, the study has shown that girls in the past matured faster. And the vast majority of people just take their word for it, don't actually look it up. You're pointing out, IP, you actually look it up, and it doesn't say that girls during the time of Muhammad matured faster. It was girls during the Paleolithic period. In the time of Muhammad, average age is about 16 and a half or so. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's when they hit menarche. You would see signs of puberty early, but they're not going to be able to even produce children because they've not had their monthly periods yet. So if you're going for 9, 10-year-olds, you're just using them for sex. You're not actually like maximizing the fertility window, or it's about childbearing, because that's all nonsense.
You just want to bang a kid.
Basically, you're a pedophile, which is what Muhammad was.
You're pointing out there's no benefit to this. There's no upside to this. It's not like, oh, you are maximizing for fertility. You're not. You're endangering the girl. That's all you're doing. So why would you do that if you don't have to? Well, it must just be because you want to bang a little girl. Is that about right?
Yeah, and if you want to put the last study I have up here, I'll just show like mentally. An umbrella study was done recently. Now, an umbrella study is a very interesting
we're talking
study.
about people. We're talking about people, not umbrellas here. So give us good information.
Various studies are done on child sexual abuse. Then they're collected into meta-analyses. So meta-analyses survey all the literature done on a specific issue. This is an umbrella study. It collected all the meta-analyses done on this issue, including the Bruce Ryan, very controversial and famous study, and notes that's an outlier. They note in this study that, yes, when child sexual abuse results in mental damage, psychiatric issues for anyone, for these children involved. So they can suffer from things like borderline personality disorder, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia. And one psychosocial outcome met high quality standards. So they basically point out, if you're going to start using children for sex, they're going to suffer from all sorts of mental issues. And this is not even looking at child marriage yet. All the studies I cited in the debate show child marriage is just as harmful, if not more harmful. Because not only are you using these children for sex, you're expecting them to be wives and mothers and manage households. And they suffer from suicidal thoughts, depression, all sorts of mental issues on top of that. This is just looking at the sexual. The sexual aspect results in mental harm done to these poor girls and boys. But when you force child marriage onto them, like the studies I cited in my debate with Daniel, it makes it even worse because they're being expected to do far more now, because now they have to keep being abused night after night, and they have to be wives and mothers and manage households, and they just simply can't. So for the Muslim Cowboy to say that we need to study up on this stuff shows he hasn't studied up on this.
He obviously hasn't. Yeah, and again, he doesn't know what Islam teaches about this. He's completely ignorant. He sounds like someone who watched a couple of Dawah videos from people like, Ali Dawah or something like this, and then doesn't know any better. But notice, that's fine. It's one thing for someone to be completely ignorant. Why is it that in Dawah, the more ignorant you are, the more you're expected to speak about all this stuff? Weird stuff.
You can look down here. You get suicidal attempts at 84%, psychological symptoms 70%. It's really bad. I mean, I don't think people realize how bad this is for kids.
So you're pointing out that it's dangerous physically and mentally.
Yes.
Marrying kids is bad for them mentally and physically, and also dangerous for any child that could be produced by that relationship. Is that an accurate assessment of the real data, not just what we're hearing from the Muslim Cowboy and the Dawah guys?
Yes, and I got studies on that showing that child marriage results in problems for the offspring. They can have low birth weight, but they can also be raised with poor quality because you're basically having children trying to raise babies. They don't raise them as well as women in their 20s who have fully developed brains. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's why would you want a 12-year-old raising a child? They're still trying to grow up, and these morons think that that's what should be happening. It's so
and I remember reading about that a long time ago when I first started writing about this. So you're talking like, I don't know, 2006, something like that, 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. When I started looking it up, because I was hearing from the Dawa guys back then, no, it's totally fine. It's not harmful at all. The ones who were actually honest about it happening, they were the minority. Those who did would try to defend it and say it's not harmful. And so I was actually looking stuff up. And it's just pointing out basic things about like nutrition. It's a girl who's 10, in some cases, can get pregnant. But if her body is still growing, her body is using the nutrients, things, calcium and stuff for her bones to grow. And when she has to be breastfeeding a baby, then the nutrients are going to they're like dividing up the nutrients because she needs them for herself, for her to grow. And yet she's giving them to her baby who's growing. And it's just, it's just really stupid. And notice this is not hard stuff. This is not difficult stuff. Guys, when you're 9 or 10 and you're a girl, your hips are this wide. 5 years later, they're much wider. Your birth canal is much wider. It is much safer for a baby to go through that. Therefore, why not wait? And they go, no, she's a fully grown woman even at 9.
They will still not refuse to let go of the idea that having sex with little children is justified, because this is what Islam is, because Islam tells them it is okay. And no matter what you say, no matter what I say, no matter what the science says, no matter what the paper says, no matter what the world says, it doesn't matter to them. To them, this is just the kuffar, the enemies of Islam, babbling things that don't matter to us, because we know the truth as the Prophet Muhammad delivered it to us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what we're dealing with.
And I would say, like, even if you knew nothing else about Islam, apart from the fact that as soon as people accept it, they start getting an overwhelming urge to start defending child marriage and to endanger children, that would be enough to be pretty suspicious about. Sneeko was asked about child marriage before he converted. He's like, oh, that's gross. And then after he converted, he's, after I've done more research on the issue, I've discovered that it's really, really not that bad. And it can actually be this really good thing. It's like, what happened when you converted that your brain just says yes to child marriage? And the real answer is you get programmed to mindlessly accept whatever the Dawa guys say. And the Dawa guys are now defending child marriage. If you go back 15 years when the Dawa guys were denying it and saying, no, that's a lie. Oh, what did your average Muslim say when you brought up child marriage? They said, you're a liar for saying that. Why are you saying I'm a liar? Because our Dawa guys said it. Notice there's no concern for what's in the actual Muslim sources. They just repeat what their Dawa guys say. Then all of a sudden, their Dawa guys get to the point where they have to be honest about it. And then now people just repeat that. It's a woman through and through. So notice, Aisha was a prepubescent. We're going to say this. We'll go through some of the sources. Aisha was a prepubescent 9-year-old girl playing with dolls when her prophet spread her legs apart and penetrated her. Whatever you mean by woman, this is not what anyone else except your ummah means by the word woman. But I just tweeted like, I don't know, like an hour ago or so, something like that. I tweeted a little while ago. I pointed out, like, when a man says, hey, I'm a woman now. Okay, so that person would say, I identify as a woman. Okay, well, what's the criticism of that? But biological reality says you're biologically a man. So what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, I identify as a woman, and I'm saying that as long as I identify as a woman, that's good. You should all respect that. Muslims like the Muslim Cowboy, I'm assuming, would say, no, that's horrible. You can't just ignore biology and identify. Okay, what are you doing, dude? We're not even talking about a 9-year-old girl who identifies as a woman through and through. You're saying you identify the girl as a woman through and through. So now it's not a person saying, I feel like this and therefore I'm identifying as this. This is you, a complete outsider, saying what someone else is. So if you can take a prepubescent girl who hasn't reached puberty and say, I identify her as a woman. What objection could you possibly have to a man saying, I identify as a woman? If you're ignoring you're basically saying it's perfectly acceptable to ignore all of biological reality and just say something. And as long as I say it, that makes it true. Great. Anyone can do that. Why do you complain about it when a trans person does it? So anyway, we have another definition of what a trans woman is. You could be a man and identify as a woman. That would make you a trans woman in one way. Or you could say, hey, there's a little girl. She hasn't reached puberty. She's playing with dolls, and we're just calling her a woman through and through. Okay, so you're making her a trans woman. So someone says defending child marriage is wild. He says no one has ever defended child marriage. It's a marriage between a man and a woman, even if she's a prepubescent 9-year-old girl playing with dolls, whose hips haven't widened, whose breasts haven't budded, who doesn't have pubic hair, who doesn't have a menstrual cycle. I'm just calling her a woman because that's how things work for the Muslim cowboy. Yeah! It's not permissible to consummate with children, bright guy. No, notice. I mean, guys, I find this seriously interesting. That it's just there's no biological requirement as far as when someone is a woman, according to him, because Aisha hadn't reached puberty, and the Quran doesn't require that a girl reaches puberty. So what he's saying is, if we bang her, then she's a fully adult woman. So that's the criterion. Notice, you could apply this exact same reasoning, to having sex with a baby. So, Daniel Hakikachu's dream date of an 11-month-old girl, who reaches precocious puberty. If you had sex, you could say that is a fully grown woman if I have sex with her. This is absolutely insane. This dude is seriously sick.
Well,
and
he's
the question
wrong.
And the question is, did he have the same view before he converted, or is this strictly an Islamic thing? But go ahead, IP.
Yeah, well, Islam clearly rots the brain. I mean, look at what you end up
that's offensive.
Basically believing and defending. It's horrifying. But he's wrong. I mean, Daniel Hakikachu debated me on child marriage. So he's just wrong. His own buddy there
on child marriage. They do. I see a child marriage all the time. No. This guy's just saying, hey, what everyone else in the world calls child marriage, just change the word child to adult. It's the exact same thing, but we're just going to change the word, and then it's okay.
They don't believe puberty is a process at all. You just start using the word.
So we believe it's a process. And as far as us, if we were to start picking dates, we would pick, if we had to pick an age at which the vast majority of girls are physically mature by. So let's go with that, because earlier is going to be dangerous.
The science is basically this. Girls basically finish puberty between the ages of 15, 17. Okay? By 17, like 99% of girls have finished puberty. So it makes perfect sense that the following age point, 18, is when you're granted adulthood. It makes perfect sense that if you finish puberty, 15 to 17, you become an adult the following year. Like, just from a legal standpoint, that makes total sense.
If I say, don't bang this goat, and you say, but it's not a goat, I say it's a fully grown woman. Like, that would be like that would be pretty much the same thing, right? You're just saying, it's a goat, but I'm calling it a woman. Ha ha, see? And then you're like, and then you start talking about, banging this animal or something like that. People are like, oh, you're banging an animal? You're like, no, it's a woman. It's a woman. I call her a woman. I even put a hijab on her. See? I know that sounds insane to you. That's what you sound like to us when you think a prepubescent little girl is a fully grown adult woman. That's insane.
I think we need to keep an eye on some of these converts to Islam. I mean, they convert to Islam and they immediately are like, hey, guys, marrying children's so much fun.
Yeah.
I wonder why they became a Muslim. Maybe they saw there's an entire group of people that would defend their own pedophilia. It's quite an interesting correlation.
They're like, I testify that there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. All right, guys. So now let's talk about child.
Let's talk about banging them kids, eh?
The moment they're in, let's go right to that.
A woman is a woman is a woman is a woman is a woman when they hit puberty. Now, this is going to come back to bite him in his cowboy hat, because Aisha hadn't reached puberty and Islam doesn't require this. So if he's saying a woman is a woman when they hit puberty and Aisha hadn't reached puberty, why in the name of common sense is he calling her a woman? He says, making a certain age a number is arbitrary and makes no sense. Right. What makes sense is just taking little girls and calling them women.
Is it arbitrary to make a certain age a number?
Yeah.
No. From a legal standpoint, we wait till they complete puberty, and they complete puberty 15 to 17.
Yeah.
So instead of having to have every girl go through some sort of like scientific investigation, we just go, okay, 18 fits. You've had a lot of mental development. You still have a little bit more, but you need to start getting used to being an adult. So you're going to be granted the status of adulthood with some minor, things like you can't drink, you can't rent cars, for example, things like this. It's going to be much harder to get a loan, that kind of stuff. But we basically grant it after basically the stages of puberty are complete. On average, it's 18. It's not an arbitrary age. It makes total sense from a scientific standpoint.
Yeah. And that's, when we talk about that girls can and do develop at different rates and so on, you can point that out and say, any particular number, you could argue it somewhat, right? Like you could say, what if we went to 17 and a half, or what if we went to 17, or what if we went to 19 or 20 or something like that? There is some wiggle room in there, but that doesn't mean it's arbitrary. That's not arbitrary. That's not just, let's pick one. Okay. I'll pick this one. Where'd my figure? 18. Yeah, we're going with 18. No, it's not. It's taking a bunch of data into account and saying, okay, there's a little wiggle room on if we try to get specific, but in general, this is a very, very safe spot to start making laws around. And so it's based on knowledge. The things that our Muslim friends are saying are all based on ignorance. Ignorance at best, deception at worst, because sometimes they're just lying. All right. So a couple more tweets here. So someone had said only a Muslim pedophile would say something like this. It's disgusting, raping children. And he says, it's funny how these kuffar equate marriage and rape. I knew they were as dumb as crap, but this is next level. Oh, he dropped the R word. We need a replacement word for like motard or something like that.
Do the Dawaganists not understand the concept of marital rape? Or statutory rape?
They don't. I've seen scholars mocking this idea. Muslim scholars mocking this idea. I saw a guy he's speaking to a crowd, and he goes, "Did you know that in America you can rape your wife?" And I thought, "What? No, you can't rape your wife." And he goes, "How can you rape someone when you have rights over their?" And I was like, "Oh, I thought he was saying it's allowed to rape your wife." He's saying the concept of being able to rape your wife exists, whereas over here we have no such concept. For them, rape is having sex against someone's will when you're not allowed to have sex with that person, right? If you actually have the right to the person's sexual reproductive organs, they have no right to reject that. And so, they would say, no, what are you even talking about? Marital rape. What are you talking about?
Again, we got to keep an eye on these converts to Islam. They come out and they're promoting child marriage and pedophilia, and they also want to own women, so it's not rape because they can do whatever they want with their property in their view. This is absolutely ridiculous. If you don't acknowledge marital rape, you shouldn't be allowed to get married.
And especially when you're tying this to kids, because notice, the general reasoning would be, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, they're not in a position to consent, and Islam doesn't require them to consent. Their parents consent for them. And what was that AP that Fareed said when he's mocking this idea that we are accusing them of raping children?
How is it child rape when there is parental consent?
His objection to us pointing out that a little girl has no clue what you're doing and you toss her on a bed and bang her. His response is, but if you had parental consent, then how can it be rape? Notice, it doesn't matter what the girl is thinking or whether she is capable of consenting. Her parents can say, hey, you go bang my daughter, it's fine. I say it's okay. And notice, this is the creepy part. There are lots of parents who would say, oh, I don't want some guy banging my little daughter. But once they've become conditioned to mindlessly accept whatever the Dawa guys say and Muhammad's pattern of conduct and so on, it makes it acceptable. So that's how you actually end up with, oh, okay, the local sheikh, he wants my 7-year-old. as his next wife. Who am I to say no? It's right with it, even if it feels a little weird. Even if I keep getting these weird ideas from Western movies I'm watching that's not a good idea. Even though I saw on the internet, because no one's going to say that in my school here in this Muslim country, but I read on the internet that it's actually dangerous for the kid. Nope. Who's right? Well, my imam, my sheikh has to be right. So I'll just go with that. Sick stuff. This is, guys, in other words, what we're talking about. This is not just like critiquing Islam. This is like real world endangering little kids relevant stuff.
Yes.
All right.
How is it murder when there's parental consent?
How is it having sex with a goat if you have the shepherd's consent? So he says, nope, children are off limits. The key is defining childhood, which apparently you can do however you want. You could just say anything makes you an adult. It's different at different times and locations. And let me just read this last one so we can be done with his tweets. The Muslim Cowboy said, the disbelievers think we should be ashamed of some things in Islam. There is not a single thing our prophet did that I myself wouldn't do. If my prophet beheaded between 600 and 900 Jews, then so would I, because my prophet did it. This is submission. This is the way. So notice the reason I'm pointing this out, this tweet right here, is this guy does not know what his prophet, unless he's lying. He doesn't actually know what his prophet did. He thinks that what Islam requires is that a girl reaches puberty because he heard it from someone like Ali Dawah. He's about to find out that's not what Islam teaches at all. Show me that. Show me that. Show me that from Muhammad. Show me that from the Quran. You can't, because it doesn't exist. But he's saying everything that his prophet did, he would do. Okay, Muslim Cowboy, what your prophet actually did was marry and have sex with a prepubescent girl. That's what he did. So you're saying you, out of a heart and a spirit of submission, which is what Islam is, you would do the exact same thing. You heard it here, folks. All right.
People take the words of their dawah propagandists as truth, especially if they cite a source without even reading the source. They're like, look, he cited the source. It's accurate. Look, we are right. We are on the right side. Now, if you took this guy, put him in front of I don't know, anybody, and just bombarded him with study after study after study after study, or even just opened a website to him which clearly says that no, a child that hits puberty is not a woman. It only means that her development has begun. It is in the beginning stage, and she is only considered a woman after her development is completed. If you showed that to them, because his statement is in clear contradiction with science, with basic biology as we know it, would these people actually change their minds? What do you think? Does anybody believe that this Muslim Cowboy, if he saw definitions from all kinds of authorities on this matter that said, no, a girl that hits puberty is not a woman, would he actually change his mind and say, well, you know what? Okay, I guess I was wrong. I must change my views now.
No, that tweet he just put up said it all. This is just about submission to whatever Islam says, whatever Muhammad.
Exactly.
Who cares about those pesky facts? We've got the conclusion. Muhammad was right. And all the evidence that goes against it, we're just going to ignore because they're going to cite the studies that are, or misrepresent the studies in terms of Daniel Akikachu to fit the conclusion we want. It's never going to be about facts. It doesn't matter how many girls they harm. It doesn't matter how much death they cause from early childbirth. It's all about whatever Muhammad wanted. That's real submission. You turn your brain off when you go down that direction. That's what they do.
And that is Islam for you.
Notice, not when you finish puberty, when you hit it, when you start it. Puberty is a process that takes several years. As soon as you start puberty, you're a fully grown woman, and it's time. It's totally acceptable to start having sex with you. Let's talk about pigs, because I was talking about this with it was a group of people, but too many Marys Too Many Marys. Mary from Too Many Marys. She's been on with us before. But she was pointing out that it's understood among pig farmers. She goes, even on farms, they understand that as soon as an animal goes into heat, you don't start that. You have to wait until the animal continues developing. And I said, really? Show me that with the pigs. And a few seconds later, she sent me an article. She just pulled one up real quick. And so I go to it, and let's check this out.
Be careful with your words. You just said goat.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Dawa guys. Close your ears when I say things like that. So we have this. So this entire thing is on taking care of pigs, and then you get into reproducing and so on. All right. So notice down here towards the bottom of this section. Let's pull it up. When's the pig ready for breeding? Oh, that's the question, right? That's what Muslims are asking. That's what the Muslim Cowboy is obsessed with when he's talking about when are the little girls ready for breeding? Ha ha! Old enough to bleed, old enough to breed, right? Now watch this. Most breeds of pig reach puberty at 5 months of age. So they develop much faster than human beings. But some, for example, the Chinese pig, come into heat for the first time at 3 months of age when they have enough good feed and water. So pigs reach puberty between 3 and 5 months after they're born. 3 to 5 months. So very, very quick. It does not take them long. Now watch what they say. The pig should not be used for breeding when she comes into heat for the first time. It is wiser to allow her to grow for another month before using her for breeding. Now notice, this doesn't sound like a long time to us. What, another month? Okay, well maybe you should say, girls could wait another month. We're talking about pigs here who develop much, much, much more rapidly. So notice, if a pig, grows up over a period of 5 months mostly and is in heat for the first time, five months, a month is 20% of its lifespan, right? A month is 20% of its 5-month life. So you're saying, hey, even though this pig is biologically ready to get pregnant, wait another 20% of the life that this pig has already lived. So if it took 5 months to get there, wait another month. If it took 3 months to mature and you say wait another month, now you're talking about wait another third of the life that it's already lived. So you're talking about, in other words, for a pig that develops very rapidly, waiting another month is waiting a very, very long time. It's not a long time to us, but that's you're allowing that pig to grow a bunch. You're allowing that pig to grow a bunch. So what am I saying here? Guys, let's think about this. These are experienced pig farmers. And it's understood among pig farmers, yes, your pig is in heat for the first time. That pig can get pregnant. So do you want to start breeding your pig as soon as the pig is ready to get pregnant? What do the pig farmers say? They say, no, do not do that. Why? Because the pig is still growing and developing. You should wait a little longer. Now, notice, if a pig is 5 months old and you say wait another month, you're saying wait another 20% of its life. If a human being, which develops much more slowly, let's say a girl gets her first period at the age of 10, and you were to apply the same reasoning that a pig farmer applies to the pig, you would say, wait another 20% of her life. So if she's 10 years old, 20% of her life would be 2 years. You'd say, wait another 2 years before you're even thinking about this. Wait another 2 years before you're thinking about breeding with this girl.
David, are you saying that this is proof that pig farmers treat their animals better than Muslims treat their daughters?
I would not say that in general about Muslims, because there are Muslims who treat their daughters way better than that. I'm saying what's being advocated by Ali Dawah, by the Muslim Cowboy, by Rosie, by Daniel Hakikachu, what they are saying, the things that they are saying, yes, pig farmers treat pigs better than these dais treat their daughters and wives. Guys, get your minds around that, right? The pig farmer is saying just because that pig is capable of getting pregnant right now does not mean you should rush into breeding that pig. You need to wait. Let the pig grow more. Let the pig's birth canal widen a bit because it's just safer for the pig. It's safer for the offspring. It's better for everyone involved if you just wait longer.
David would debunk. We don't even like pigs. We like goats.
And doctors say the same thing about human children. Hey, even if a girl gets her period by age whatever, that doesn't mean you should be thinking about breeding right then. You need to wait to let her finish maturing. And the Dawa clowns say, no, you don't. That's the moment you see any sign of anything remotely resembling puberty, it's time to start smashing.
When there are signs.
And you mentioned like 10 and you wait 20% more, like that's what with the pigs. But again, the science for the development of girls, you need to wait till at least 18 for the development of the birth canal to be complete.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, hey, let's keep it parallel with pigs. Okay, so if the Muslim cowboy was as concerned for a marriage partner as a pig farmer is for a pig, then he would not be saying what he's saying. He would saying, okay, even if she gets her first period here, we should at least wait a couple years. If I'm treating my bride as well as a pig farmer would treat a pig. And what's he saying? I'm the Muslim cowboy? No, I treat little girls, I'll call them women, but they're little girls. I treat them worse. They have less value. They're of less concern to me than a pig is to a pig farmer. Welcome to my religion. Do you want to convert?
You know what this does is it teaches men to not have any self-control. This is what Daniel Hikikichu's argument was in my debate with him. Is like the moment you have any sort of sexual desires, get married and start having sex. That is incredibly stupid. If a child is suffering from rage issues, we don't put him in the army and tell him to go shoot up civilians. We teach him to control his rage. It's good that when children start feeling these desires, the first thing they should learn is self-control. Hey, you're getting these desires, you're going through puberty, learn to control them. Don't let them control you. The Dawaganda solution is, no, let them control you. The moment you want to have sex, you should just start having sex with whatever you want. Just go around, just make sure you're married. 1 or 2 wives, who cares? It leads to a culture that is devoid of self-control. This is horrible.
Here's a famous clip.
If you can start fertilizing a female as soon as she's showing signs of an imminent fertility, the period, menarche, then that will maximize because you've secured the female right at the beginning.
Secure the females!
So you can still have sex before you start maximizing fertility, right?
When the body is physically mature, according to Islamic law.
Do you know what precocious puberty?
When the body is physically mature, they have no idea what constitutes an actual physically mature girl.
He's refuting himself here.
Yeah, that's what he just did. He just went on this big log rant about how child marriage is about maximizing the fertility window. And I asked him a simple question. He goes, yeah, you guess you can have them before they even can start having children. You can start raping them before they can have children. So he just refuted himself. It's like, what are you doing?
He doesn't even see that. He could re-watch this whole thing and he wouldn't even see it. Like the first thing that pops into our heads here, which is, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. That's contradictory. He's refuting himself. It's not about fertility to him. He wouldn't even understand it.
It means starting puberty unusually early, like beyond averages.
Is there anything in Islam that prevents you from a man marrying a 5-year-old that started precocious puberty?
I like your contempt there.
No, marriage can happen.
5-year-old.
You can arrange a marriage even as an infant, but that doesn't mean that sex is allowed.
But could a man have a marriage to a 5-year-old consummated if she started precocious puberty?
If she starts showing signs of physical maturity, then yes, that's permissible. As I stated, that's
what about
the
age 4?
If there are
signs.
Yeah. And guys, again, this could be anything. This could be, pubic hair, breast budding, anything like that. But in the sources, we had a full discussion of this with Too Many Marys. But what their sources are actually, because you don't find this doesn't come from the Quran and the Hadith. This comes from like Muslim schools of thought and schools of jurisprudence and so on. But their concern when they're talking about signs of maturity, one, they were worried about a girl being too small that you're going to crush her or break her in sex, and two, they were worried that if the girl's if her vagina is too small, then you're actually going to tear her, giving her a fistula, rupturing the area between this is their language. They talk about the two holes becoming one hole. So this is what they're actually concerned about, and this is what. Oh, okay. So if you don't want to do that, you don't want to end up with that situation. That's what they're concerned about. They're not concerned about the girl reaching puberty or anything else. So yeah, but let's go ahead and hear the rest of Daniel here.
So this is something that becomes biologically impossible because precocious puberty.
I have a study that shows it goes as early as 11 months.
All right. Well, that's something that the parents would not. See, the thing about Islamic marriage is that parents are involved at these ages, and when you look at the marriage,
he does not know how horrifyingly evil what he's saying is right now. So
yeah, you can see me in the chair. I'm trying to control myself because I was so pissed.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about the child marriage. I'm talking about the what this added thing of, but parents are involved. You mean the parents that are brainwashed by guys like you? The parents who are brainwashed by guys who are defending child marriage, they're the ones who are going to decide when their child is ready for to be married off. And they've got you guys talking to them and telling them that it's totally okay. At least Daniel's waiting. Then this is what's about to be even more horrifying. Daniel, as awful as he is right now, is much better than Muhammad and Allah. He massively better, world of difference. As evil as what he's saying is right now, he's massively better than his God and his prophet, because they don't even care about the signs of puberty. They don't care about any of that stuff. So Daniel's actually better, but look at what he's saying. So they're the Dawah guys, and now all the Dawah guys are running around celebrating child marriage. Yes, we're based. You see, we're based. We're saying child marriage is good. It's great. And these are the people who are influencing the ummah on when you should give away your girls for marriage. And these are the guys, so it doesn't matter. She's 5 or 6. Of course you can have sex with a 5-year-old. And well, he's Daniel Hakikachu. He knows so much about Islam. I guess it is okay. Okay, Daniel, take my 5-year-old.
We have parents out there that are so brainwashed that they do terrible things to their children because they don't even realize that it's bad. And this guy really wants to give the agency over that life to parents in such high, with such control. Is this guy delusional? Does he not realize how messed up this is?
Well, I mean, not even that AP. I mean, there are many child marriage results often from poverty. So a lot of what happens in the Middle East right now is parents are in horrible situations where they can't even feed their children, and they don't want to see their children starve. So instead of like sending them to like an orphanage or trying to get someone to adopt them, because you can't adopt in Islam, they have these sick rich guys come in and they say, well, I'll just take the daughter from you and marry her and take care of her. What are the parents going to do in that situation? Well, because their dawagandists have been lying to them, telling them that it's okay, that this is okay with Muhammad did it with 9. So why can't you just sell your 9-year-old instead of having to try to find food for her? And it leads to all sorts of harm and horrible things happen to these girls. So sometimes it's not even just evil parents. It's parents that are poor and they got no other options, and they can't just, have them be adopted by a better family. No. They got to be married. So welcome to Islam. This is what happens here. So this is what often happens in these poor Muslim countries. And often what the research shows is when people get lifted out of poverty, child marriage decreases. So I think there's a lot of good parents that are pushing their girls into child marriages because they just are poor. They don't have the money right now. And of course, you just can't adopt. What an odd thing.
We need the money, honey. Yeah.
And keep in mind, if you didn't have the idea in Islam that it's okay to have sex with a little girl, if you didn't have that idea, you could still work around the guy having sex with a little girl. So in other words, you could say, hey, we're going to have an arranged marriage. So yes, we are poor. we're going to have an arranged marriage with my, 6-year-old, 7-year-old or something like that. We're going to have an arranged marriage where you're going to provide for the girl. So the girl's no longer starving and so on, but she's going to stay with us until she's ready. And then she'll be your wife. I would not be a total fan of that arrangement, but it would be way, way better. Why aren't these guys, these rich guys who are going in there and snatching up child brides? Why aren't they waiting until the girls mature? Because they know they could get away with marrying kids in Islam, because you've got the dawah guys and their sheikhs and imams all defending sex with little children. Speaking of dawah guys, we've seen this Daniel clip a million times, but here's another famous one here.
If my daughter reached the age of menstruation at 9 years old, I would say you are ready to get married.
You are ready to get married if she gets menstruation at 9 years old. Keep in mind, as repulsive as that is, he's talking about his own daughter there. As repulsive as that is, he is massively better than his God and his prophet.
If you look just at the Quran, you will get the indication that you can have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old. The reason why it's haram to have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old is not found in the Quran at all. If you just read the Quran, it is halal. It would be halal to have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old. In Surah Al-Talaq, chapter 65, verse 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us who you can divorce and who you cannot divorce. And then he says, وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ. وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ. And the ones who had never been pubescent before. And by the way, this is very important, yeah? I want all Muslims to be aware of this. The reason why we don't have sexual intercourse with 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds or whatever is not because of puberty. Wait a minute, what did you say? It's not because of puberty, because that verse in the Quran actually says lam yahid. They never had puberty before. You can't go around that. The Quran doesn't say.
Notice he just said the verse, Surah 65, verse 4, which we'll be looking at because apparently the Muslim Cowboy never read it, or at least never understood it. But Hijab is pointing out that this is talking about marrying, having sex with, and divorcing girls all before they've reached puberty. And therefore, puberty cannot be the requirement for marriage. And so, it would be pretty easy for someone to make a video, Muhammad Hijab destroys the Muslim Cowboy on child marriage or something like that. But let's go ahead and let Hijab here break his case down more.
Doesn't say anywhere in the Quran that the woman has to be pubescent.
Correct.
I dare you to find one verse in the Quran where it says you're not allowed to marry someone based on harm, or you're not allowed to have sexual intercourse based on harm, or you're not allowed to marry someone based on puberty. So
notice there's an entire crowd of Muslims there. He's challenging them all. Show me where the Quran says you have to wait for puberty, or show me where the Quran says you have to wait until you're not even harming the little girl. Show me somewhere where it says, hey, if what you're doing is going to endanger the life of this girl, you should do it. Show me that. He's challenging the crowd. No one can come up with anything.
Quran alone, you're allowed to have sexual intercourse with 5-year-olds. Get me one verse in the Quran which says the woman has to be pubescent. One verse. I want one verse in the Quran from the beginning of the book to the end of the book which says that she has to be pubescent. So that makes it halal from your perspective. From your perspective, it's halal. You know, in the Quran it says, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ. It says you're not allowed to marry your mum. It says you're not allowed to marry your sister, your auntie. Where does it say you're not allowed to marry a prepubescent? I'm looking for one verse that you can say, you pinpoint it and say this is where it says prepubescent marriage or whatever is not allowed. So if you're Quran alone, you're steered towards pedophilia, a severe type of pedophilia, a wife abuse, a severe type of wife abuse.
All right, so there you heard it from Muhammad Hijab himself. Just to be clear, for the millionth time, whenever we play this clip, we don't, even though they love to misrepresent everyone else, we don't want to misrepresent them. Muhammad Hijab is not saying that it's okay to have sex with a 5-year-old girl.
He just said it. What are you talking about?
He's saying that if you just go with the Quran, you'd say it's okay to have sex with a 5-year-old. But there's this harm principle. Don't harm people, and so you could apply that to girls and say, well, it's dangerous for a 5-year-old. Therefore, you should be waiting. Now, what he doesn't explain is again, his Muslim scholars have discussed what they mean by trying to avoid harming a little girl. What are you actually waiting for? And again, what they're really talking about is turning the two holes into one hole. That's what they're talking about. That's the harm they're concerned about. They're not concerned. In other words, they're not concerned about, oh, this is really going to hurt the girl, or this is going to increase the chances of the girl dying during childbirth or something. They're not even talking about stuff like that. So that's the situation. But notice what I was drawing attention to there was Muhammad Hijab pointing out that puberty is not a requirement. It's not just not a requirement in the Quran. It's not a requirement anywhere. There's not a requirement in Islam to wait for puberty. That's not what you're waiting for. Muhammad didn't wait for puberty with Aisha. The Quran specifically says you can marry, have sex with, and divorce girls all before they've reached puberty. Our friend, the Muslim Cowboy, is saying once a girl reaches puberty, she's a woman. Now, that is false. We've exposed why that is false. Puberty is a process that takes several years. You don't just, as soon as you start puberty, you're a fully mature grown woman. That's insane and idiotic. So on one hand, he has no clue what he's talking about as far as biology is concerned, but he also has no clue what he's talking about as to what Islam says. He just doesn't know. He's ignorant, or he's deceptive. But I'm assuming since he's I don't know how long he's been a Muslim, we're giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying that he's completely ignorant and he doesn't know what his own sources say.
The stupid thing about the whole Muhammad Hijab clip is he's going, guys, we can't have this extreme form of pedophilia. We need a more mild form of pedophilia.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Hadiths. Like, come on, everyone. We're not that bad. Yeah, we like pedophilia and all this stuff, but we don't want to be that bad. Like, it's better, but it's still just not in the ballpark of being good. It's still off into the evil territory. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and that's what really sucks. It's like what Ali Dawah is saying. So notice you have what the Quran says, and there's just no requirement. It wouldn't matter if she's 2. He's talking about 5. It wouldn't matter if she's 2, according to the Quran. So you have the Quran, and if you have just the position of the Quran, there's no requirement. There's no requirement. You're not waiting for anything. You could just have sex with a little prepubescent girl. Then you have Muhammad Hijab who's saying, no, we're not waiting for puberty, but we're waiting to avoid a severe type of harm, right? Like he doesn't say this, he doesn't spell it out, but they're worried about turning the two holes into one hole. Then you've got Ali Dawah and the Muslim Cowboy who say, no, we wait for puberty. We wait for puberty. And then you have people who would wait for some point beyond that. But notice, it's like degrees of evil. It's like Muhammad Hijab, what he's saying is child marriage, and it's sick, and it's twisted, and it's evil, but it's better than what his God says. And what Ali Dawah and the Muslim Cowboy are saying is sick and evil and twisted, but it's better than Hijab's position, and it's better than the position of the Quran. Little side note, IP, because I don't know if you've seen us discuss this before, but one of the great ironies in this is Hijab is saying, he specifically says, according to the Quran, it would be halal. It would be halal to have sex with a 5-year-old. You go outside of the Quran to Muslim scholars, later Muslim scholars, who apply a harm principle, and applying that harm principle, okay, you shouldn't have sex with a 5-year-old unless the 5-year-old is, a little chubby, on the chubby side. That's what they talk about. She's on the chubby side and she can bear the weight of a man and things. These are actually in their rulings. But Hijab is saying, so if we go to these other guys, we find out that it's haram, and he calls it haram. He says the reason it's haram has nothing to do with puberty. It's because of harm. That's why. But note what he just did there. He said, okay, according to Allah, it's halal. But these guys have added some things that would make it haram. It's halal, it's permissible in Islam to have sex with according to the Quran, to have sex with a 5-year-old. But it's not, we don't consider it permissible. Why? Because of later scholars who came along and commented on this. Why is this a problem? Well, Muhammad said that whenever you let a human being overrule Allah on what's halal and haram, you are worshiping that human being. You're committing shirk. So this is you just had Muhammad Hijab committing shirk, advocating shirk, saying, no, guys, if you just listen to Allah, you're in so much trouble because you're going to think that's halal, according to Allah. So you need to listen to these later guys to correct Allah on what's allowed and what's not allowed. And so according to Muhammad, Muhammad hijab worships Muhammad and the hadith collectors and the later scholars and so on. So pretty wild stuff. He said, the disbelievers think we should be ashamed of some things in Islam. There is not a single thing our prophet did that I myself wouldn't do. This is submission. This is the way. So notice that would include sucking on the tongues of little boys. That would include, as I've already pointed out, beheading hundreds of Jews. Now, Muslim Cowboys probably, you're darn right I would. But you're talking about buying, selling, and trading black African slaves. Muhammad did that. You're talking about banging your slave girls. Muhammad did that. Even got in a little trouble over that. Once he got caught in the bed of his wife Hafsa with his slave girl Mary the Copt. His wives got so upset, not because he was having sex with a slave girl, they knew he was allowed to do that, but that he was doing it in the bed of one of his wives. They considered that really disrespectful. They complained until he swore an oath to his wives, I will never have sex with that girl again. Then a little later he gets a revelation, yeah, go ahead and start banging your slave girl again. We know he did because he got her pregnant. So that's multiple things. Our good friend, the Muslim Cowboy, could get a sex slave, have sex with his sex slave, do it in his wife's bed or wives' beds. Then if his wives get upset at him, he could swear an oath, swear by Allah, I swear by the great God Allah, I will never do that again, and then come back and just do it, because Muhammad did. So lots of stuff he could if he well, he can't really have an adopted son. That's the thing. There are things you can do that you actually aren't supposed to do in Islam, but you could do them. So he could adopt a son, even though it's against Islam, but he wants to do whatever Muhammad did. So he could adopt a son. Then that son could get married, and then he could get the hots for his adopted son's wife, convince his adopted son to divorce the girl, and then marry her. It would totally be what Muhammad did. Hey, Muslim Cowboy, we know you're watching because you're already sharing that you're going to be on, although pretty disrespectful not to share the link. Should have shared the link to this live stream. And if you don't, I mean, how confident are you of your positions? But anyway, got a pretty dope theme song. Goes like this. I need some guitar. I need someone. We'll have to do it more professionally, but ready? And this should just be kind of the opening lines. We could expand it to a full song, but Muslim Cowboy, you're welcome to use this. So goes like this. Ready? Here we go. Well, I'm the Muslim Cowboy playing my guitar. Girl, I hear you're 9 years old, so climb on in my car. If you try to run away, you won't get very far, 'cause I will beat you senseless while I scream Allah Akbar. Ho, hi, la, la, right? This is why Islam is so dangerous and against the values of the developed world. It promotes depravity like child marriages. And yeah, that's again, people will say, "Oh, shame on you guys for responding." It's like, wait, guys, I don't know if you've seen it, but there are a ton of people trying to convince the world that banging little kids is perfectly fine. And we respond to them and you go, oh, you evil Islamophobes. And then what do guys do? They go and they start banging little girls and then they're shocked. Look at these grooming gangs. Like, what did you think the people who think that it's okay to have sex with little girls and to take, non-Muslim girls as their captives? What do you think they were going to do? We told you. You didn't whine about them or what their book says. You whined about us. And then, oh, shock, look, how's this happening? My goodness, man.
Terrible.
From Sarah. Knock, knock. Who's there? Howdy. Howdy who? Howdy, partner. I'm Chris Hansen from Dateline NBC. Why don't you take a seat?
Nice.
But I've still been planning for years the To Catch a Prophet, or Chris Hansen nabs vocab as Prophet Muhammad. Mike says, I'm new to this channel, but it is crazy that you have to make arguments, citing scientific studies, to prove to someone that you shouldn't bang 9-year-olds. Thank you. That's what, like, AP, if you go back, 15, 20 years and you're thinking, what are you going to be doing 15, 20 years from now? You're like, I'm going to be trying to explain to people. I'm going to spend my life trying to explain to grown men that they shouldn't be having sex with 5-year-olds. That's going to take up a significant portion of our time. You're like, what? There's no way that's going to be a thing. There's no way. And yet here we are week after week trying to explain that puberty is a process. It's not a one-time thing. It's not child, up, fully grown woman. It's not how it works. You go back 15 years ago, they were saying all kinds of things. Hey, there's no death penalty for apostasy in Islam. There's no child marriage in Islam. These are all lies of the kuffar. Now they're all bragging about these things from the rooftops. If that's the trajectory, if that's the direction things are going, it seems like it's going to get way worse, right? It seems like they're going to become more gung-ho about marrying little kids and killing apostates and everything. So it's like, ugh, this is not good.
I know, if the trajectory continues as it is, we are in big trouble. And maybe some people should think once again about, regulating and controlling the presence of Islam in their societies if they want better societies.
Chapter. So this is Sahih al-Bukhari. Look at the chapter heading. Giving one's young children in marriage is permissible. What did the Muslim Cowboy say? We're not talking about children. No, we're not talking about children. We're talking about women. This is talking about women. Okay. Bukhari says children. But the Muslim, it's also a common thing among converts that they like, they think they're the most knowledgeable people about Islam, and it doesn't matter what the greatest scholars and commentators of all time say. They just, no, I know more. I just converted 2 weeks ago.
David doesn't know. Bukhari is an Islamophobe.
So let's go ahead and read this hadith. The hadith is there, 5133, but you have the chapter heading, and then you have a bit of a commentary. But the chapter heading, giving one's young children in marriage is permissible. Why? By virtue of the statement of Allah, and for those who have no monthly courses, i.e. they are still immature, Surah 65 verse 4. Everyone remember what Muhammad Hijab quoted? He quoted Surah 65 verse 4 to show that according to the Quran, you can have sex with a 5-year-old. And look what this says. And the iddah for the girl, no, we're not talking about girls. I'm the Muslim Cowboy. I say we're talking about grown women, not girls. Okay. Why don't you read your own sources and stop lecturing us? I mean, in other words, if you want to correct someone, go correct Allah, build a time machine, Muslim Cowboy, go back in time, correct Allah, correct Muhammad, correct Bukhari, correct Ibn Abbas, correct Ibn Kathir, correct all these guys. Don't correct us. These are the guys saying we're talking about children. Again, look at the heading. One's young children. You're the one saying puberty is required. Wrong. Why? By virtue of the statement of Allah, and those who have no monthly courses. They're prepubescent. They don't have a monthly period, i.e. they're still immature. How clear could they make it? And as if this isn't enough, and the iddah for the girl before puberty. They're talking about the iddah is the waiting period after you divorce a girl. So you marry a girl, you have sex with her to consummate the marriage, and you divorce her. Then there's a waiting period before she can marry again. This is talking about the iddah, the waiting period after a man divorces a girl. The iddah for the girl before puberty. Is puberty a requirement? No. What did Muhammad Hijab say? He said you can't get around the fact that puberty is not a requirement. What does the Muslim Cowboy said? Oh, I know better than Allah. I know better than Muhammad. I know better than Bukhari. I know better than Ibn Abbas. I know better than Ibn Kathir. I know better than Muhammad Hijab. I know better than 14 centuries of Muslim scholars. Everything I say makes sense in my own head, and therefore that's what Islam is. Welcome to reality, my friend. Bukhari gives as an example, notice why he's bringing this up about marrying young children and girls being prepubescent, 5133, that's the hadith, narrated Aisha, that the Prophet wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, and then she remained with him for 9 years, i.e. till his death. This good stuff or bad stuff, AP?
Oh, bad.
All right, we'll zoom through these. 5130, 5134. Narrated Aisha that the Prophet wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated the marriage when she was 9 years old. How old was she? 9 years old. How old was she? 9 years old. Bukhari narrated
She
Urwa.
was 9 years old.
She was 9 years old. Narrated Urwa. The Prophet wrote the marriage contract with Aisha when she was 6 years old and consummated his marriage with her while she was 9 years old, and she remained with him for 9 years, i.e. till his death. There's a reason we're reading multiple hadiths. We're going to see things like this.
Because everybody must know that she was 9 years old.
And we are all going to know, because for years it was us saying it, now they're saying it too. Sahih Bukhari, 6130, narrated Aisha, I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet. What's she doing play with dolls? Dolls are forbidden in Islam. Dolls are images. You can't have a doll in Islam. What's going on here? I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. A bunch of little girls playing with dolls together. When Allah's messenger used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves. Yeah, good, smart girls. You definitely want to hide yourself from this creepazoid who's banging your little friend. Can you imagine that? Like you're a little girl, you're playing with dolls, and you got to run from this dude because he's banging your little friend. They used to hide themselves. What do little girls do around Muhammad? They hide themselves. Anyway, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. So these girls run. They scatter like ants and get away from this creepazoid. And he's like, no, bring them back in here so I can watch them play. Oh,
where
yes.
did your friends go?
Yes. Let's play, little girls. Now, notice we have the commentary here. We have commentary because any Muslim would be wondering, hey, wait a minute, they're not allowed to play with dolls. You've got all these girls playing with dolls. What's going on here? And Aisha, a wife of Muhammad, is playing with dolls. They're not supposed to be playing with dolls. What's going on here? Then you have a little commentary from Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, who says the playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden. It is forbidden. It's haram. Why is Muhammad's wife doing it? And why is Muhammad letting girls do it in front of him? But it was allowed for Aisha at that time as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty.
Oh.
What did our good friend, the Muslim Cowboy, say? Oh, Aisha reached puberty. That's why Muhammad jumped on her and was ready to start banging her. Not what Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says, not what we read in Bukhari, not what we read in the Hadith. We have to wonder, why would you say that? It's not what Islam teaches. This kind of became a common thing. There's sort of like phases to dawah. So the first phase was, no, it never happened. You're all lying. Don't believe the kuffar when they say that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl. And then the sort of second phase was, oh, yes, Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, but it was because she reached puberty. And they would say that. They would say that based on the idea that Muhammad married her when she was 6 or 7, but waited a couple years until she was 9. And then so, oh, he must have been waiting for something. What was he waiting for? He must have been waiting for her to reach puberty. Not what he was waiting for. It's not. According to the sources, she hadn't reached puberty, and puberty isn't required according to the Quran.
Somebody like this Muslim Cowboy, once you teach him about the reality of this situation, what he will do is not to say, oh, okay, well, I was wrong. Wrong. No, this is about, even marrying a prepubescent and having sex with her. And that is obviously unacceptable. No. What he will do is he will say, okay, I was probably wrong about that. He will not say that publicly. He will simply change his mind and think, well, okay, I guess it is okay to marry and have sex with a prepubescent because, well, Aisha didn't complain.
Sahih Muslim 3480. It was narrated that Aisha said, the Prophet married me when I was 6 years old and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9 years old. Check this. Guys, don't miss this. Because in the other hadith we read in Sahih al-Bukhari, where you had the commentary from Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani saying that Aisha was allowed to play with dolls because she hadn't reached puberty, they'll say, but it doesn't say that, this could have been before the marriage, and maybe this was just when she was a little girl that she was playing with these dolls, right? In other words, maybe she was 3. Maybe that's talking about when she was 3, and this is not when they're married. What does Sahih Muslim 3481 say? It was narrated from Aisha that the Prophet married her when she was 7 years old, and she was taken to him as a bride when she was 9 years old, and she took her dolls with her. He died when she was 18 years old. Guys, why is it relevant to say that Aisha took dolls with her when she's taken to Muhammad to consummate the marriage? Why would you include that? She could have taken anything, right? And she probably had other stuff. She had clothes. It didn't say she took her clothes with her. It says she took her dolls with her. Why? Why does it say that? It says it because that's how you would say someone hadn't reached puberty. That's how you indicate that that a girl hadn't reached puberty. She's still playing with dolls. And that's exactly what it says. And again, what I just said, that's not according to me. That's according to Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, who's considered the greatest hadith authority possibly in Islamic history. But no, the Muslim Cowboy, everyone knows better. He's the Muslim Cowboy. And Rosie, she knows better. Basically, anyone who converted recently knows more than the greatest Muslim scholars of all time in their own minds. This is wild stuff. Dolls. 3482, the Messenger of Allah married her when she was 6 years old and consummated the marriage with her when she was 9 years old, and he died when she was 18 years old.
She was 9 years old.
She was 9 years old. The Messenger of Allah married me when I was a girl of 7 years. Suleiman, one of the narrators, said, or 6, and consummated the marriage when I was a girl of 9. That's Sunan Abu Dawud. Sunan an-Nasai, 3380 was narrated. Aisha said, the Messenger of Allah married me when I was 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9, and I used to play with dolls because I hadn't reached puberty. This is History of At-Tabari, Volume 39, page 171. The Prophet married Aisha in Shawwal in the 10th year after the beginning of his prophethood, 3 years before the emigration. He consummated the marriage in Shawwal 8 months after the emigration. On the day he consummated the marriage with her, she was 9 years old. And so, guys, there are endless hadiths. Just so you know, there are over 200 hadiths on the age of Aisha. We saw in Sahih al-Bukhari 5133 that Bukhari, in his chapter introduction, right before he talks about Muhammad having sex with Aisha, he cites Surah 65 verse 4 to talk about marrying prepubescent girls. Now, what's going on there? Let's go ahead and read Surah 65 verse 4. And everyone can recall, our good friend Muhammad Hijab cited Surah 65 verse 4 saying that there is no requirement for puberty, and he said you can't get around it. Not in the Quran, not in the Hadith. There is no requirement to wait till a girl has reached puberty. I'm hammering this point because you got people like the new converts, Rosie, the Muslim Cowboy. They think that that's a requirement because they heard it from a Dawah guy years ago, and they thought it was true, and it never crossed their minds to look anything up. Surah 65, verse 4. And so, little background here. Muhammad had already received a revelation saying that if you're going to divorce a woman, then you have to wait 3 monthly menstrual cycles before she can marry again. So you're going to divorce a girl. Before she can marry again, she has to wait 3 monthly menstrual cycles. Then the question arose. What about our wives that don't have a monthly menstrual cycle and we're going to divorce them? How is this going to work? And there are 3 categories. There are 3 categories that people asked him about. 1, women who are too old to have a monthly menstrual cycle. They've gone through menopause. 2, girls who are too young to have a monthly menstrual cycle, so they're prepubescent. And 3, women who are pregnant, so they don't have a monthly menstrual cycle anymore. What about divorcing those girls? And keep in mind, this is about divorcing them. How long do they have to wait before they can remarry? And so Surah 65 verse 4. And those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses. So these are women who've passed the age of monthly courses. So women who've gone through menopause. For them, the iddah, since they don't have a monthly, the iddah, again, is the waiting period. The iddah, since it can't be 3 monthly menstrual cycles because they don't have monthly menstrual cycles, for them, the iddah, the prescribed period, if you have doubt about their periods, is 3 months. And step number 2, and for those who have no courses, i.e. they are still immature, no courses, they have no monthly menstrual cycle, because they're immature, their iddah, prescribed period, is 3 months likewise, except in the case of death. And then it goes on to talk about the ruling for pregnant women. All right. Now, AP.
Yeah.
That is a poor, like so much of the Quran, that is a, it's kind of awkwardly worded and so on. So I want to point out, one, we know the historical background of that verse. We know what's being answered. If you just read that, a Muslim could argue, that's not what it means or something like that. That's actually not, we've already seen how Bukhari interpreted it. He interpreted it as justification for marrying prepubescent girls. Specifically says before puberty. And he applies that to Muhammad and Aisha. Just wanted to point, we'll read 3 quick commentaries, all on Surah 65, verse 4 of the Quran, just so, and hey, Muslim Cowboy, if you want 20 more commentaries, just ask. I would be happy to put them all into a video, We'll just read 3, some of the most popular Muslim commentaries of all time. So this is Ibn Abbas, Tafsir of Ibn Abbas, on Surah 65, verse 4. Says, and for such of your women as despair of menstruation because of old age, if you doubt about their waiting period, their period of waiting shall be 3 months. Not 3 monthly menstrual cycles. They don't have it. 3 months. Upon which another man asked, O Messenger of Allah, what about the waiting period of those who do not have menstruation because they are too young? Why don't they have menstruation? Because of a medical disorder? No, they don't have menstruation because they are too young. Along with those who have it not because of young age, their waiting period is 3 months. Notice what...
You see how Islam solves everything here? It's like you can often see in early Islamic texts and in the Quran even that the pre-Islamic pagans, they were out of poverty, out of despair. They were apparently, some of them were burying their newborn daughters because they couldn't take care of them. And this was, of course, a terrible thing. It is, definitely. And Islam finally came and allegedly put an end to this. It decided to say, hey, don't bury your daughters, marry them, have sex with them. Easiest solution. See, this is how Islam solves every problem in society.
Yeah, wouldn't this have been great? So Muhammad starts off his revelation, which would have been an important question, right? So, hey, you've been told when you divorce a woman, wait 3 monthly menstrual cycles, right? And so someone wants to ask, wait a minute, I want to divorce my wife, and she's gone through menopause. She doesn't have a monthly menstrual cycle. What's up with that? So notice how this could have gone. So Muhammad could have started receiving, and by the way, if you read the commentary a bit earlier, someone did ask him that, and that's why he started receiving this revelation. So someone asked him, hey, what about women who are too old to have a monthly menstrual cycle? What about that? And then you have the answer. Notice how this could have gone. It could have gone like this. And for such of your women as despair of menstruation because of old age, if ye doubt about their waiting period, their period of waiting shall be 3 months. Upon which another man asked, O Messenger of Allah, O pattern of conduct for all people, what about the waiting period of those who do not have menstruation because they are too young? Then Muhammad, influenced by the Muslim Cowboy, said, what? How could you be having sex with girls, marrying them before they have menstruation? That's not what Islam teaches. You have to wait for their period. That's when they become women. But he didn't say that, did he? Why? Because Islam is not, has never been, and never will be defined by the Muslim Cowboy's imagination. So that's Ibn Abbas, Muhammad's companion. This is considered by many to be the greatest commentary of all time. Ibn Kathir, Tafsir of Ibn Kathir, the iddah of those in menopause and those who do not have menses. Allah the Exalted clarifies the waiting period of the woman in menopause, and that is the one whose menstruation has stopped due to her older age. Her iddah is 3 months instead of 3 monthly cycles for those who menstruate, which is based upon the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah 228. The same for the young who have not reached the years of menstruation. Their iddah is 3 months like those in menopause. What? Notice Ibn Kathir doesn't say, but you can't say that about the young because we don't molest little girls. No, we would never do that. Isn't this funny? Because these passages are all, and the child this, and the young girl this, and so on. And then you've got the Muslim cowboy correcting them all. No, the women say women, liars, liars say we're talking about children. No, liars say we're talking about the young. Liars, it's all grown women. They're women through and through. And he considers himself a higher authority than the greatest commentators in the history of Islam.
They have taken their scholars and their preachers and apologists and cowboys as Lord beside Allah. Shame on them.
This is Tafsir Jalalain, the two Jalals. And as for those of your women who no longer, gives a textual variant there, no longer expect to menstruate, if ye have any doubts about their waiting period, their prescribed waiting period shall be 3 months. And also for those who have not yet menstruated because of their young age, their period shall also be 3 months. This is talking about girls who have not menstruated because they're too young to have a monthly menstrual cycle. What did our good friend say? Let's go back to a Muslim cowboy. A woman is a woman when they hit puberty. Making a certain age a number is arbitrary and makes no sense. No, Muslim cowboy, what makes no sense is you talking about hitting a woman, becoming a woman when she hits puberty. That's false. That's false. A 9-year-old can hit puberty. A 9-year-old who hits puberty is going to be developing for several years before she becomes a woman. So you have no clue what you're talking about. The second thing is, we could agree with you and say, yes, a woman is a woman as soon as she hits puberty. But Islam doesn't require that, and Muhammad didn't do it. Muhammad didn't wait until Aisha reached puberty. He waited until he was convinced that he could penetrate her without tearing her open. That's what he waited for. And that's what the Muslim cowboy is defending. That's what his life is dedicated to now. Defending sex with prepubescent girls and deceiving people by pretending that Islam tells you to wait till puberty when Islam does not tell you to wait till puberty. But maybe he does. Maybe he does know better than Allah and Muhammad and Bukhari and Imam Muslim and Abu Dawud and Ibn Kathir and the two Jalals and Ibn Abbas. He knows better than all of them. And Muhammad, he knows better than all of them. Muslim cowboy, just converted, and now he knows. So, ladies and gentlemen, the actual position of Islam, Muhammad hijab is right. If you just went with the Quran, you wouldn't think there's any sort of rule about what you can do. You would say, oh, this guy says I can bang his 3-year-old daughter. This guy's been influenced by the Dawah guys. He thinks I can bang his 3-year-old daughter. Why not? Why not? That's what you think from the Quran. But the Quran is not the only source. Muslims do believe in the example of Muhammad. Was Muhammad waiting for Aisha to reach puberty? No, he was waiting to where he wouldn't massively damage her physically. He wasn't waiting to not hurt her or something like that, or waiting for her to not be in danger. Was just, hey, how can I avoid completely ripping her open? So you have that's the position of Islam. Just don't, if you're marrying a girl, wait until you are not going to turn 2 holes into 1 hole. Wait until then. That's the requirement. So that's what Islam really teaches. And then you have the Daniel Hakikachus who say you're waiting for some sort of sign of maturity. Not what Islam requires. Horrible teaching, but better than his prophet. You've got the Muslim cowboy and Ali Dawah. We wait till a girl has reached puberty. Nicer than what Islam teaches. Still absolutely despicable. And of course, fortunately, you do have Muslims who treat their daughters better than pig farmers treat pigs.
Yeah.
The Dawah guys, as we've seen, treat their daughters and wives worse than pig farmers treat pigs. Pig farmers understand once a pig is in heat, that does not mean you start breeding the pig. Wild stuff.
That's a mistake. They should be starting as soon as the pig comes out. Because that's what we do.
And AP, we're actually going. I mean, fortunately, it seems like more people are catching on more rapidly. Because I'm just thinking, like, as long as it took us to get them to admit that Islam does teach that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, like, how long is it going to take us to correct all these other lies that they're spreading now? Because they see a Dawa guy will admit as much as he has to admit based on what has become somewhat common knowledge, and he can't lie about it anymore because too many people know about it. But that's all he'll admit, and he'll still spread lies until the new lie has been exposed and to so many people that he can't do it anymore. So I'm thinking, like, how long is it going to take before we don't have to do this anymore? And I'm thinking, gosh, given how long it took to get here, how long is it going to take? But it seems to be accelerating. The speed at which we are exposing their lies. I mean, we saw the collapse of the perfect preservation. We saw the collapse of the scientific miracles argument. We're seeing the avalanche of apostasy. They're all defending child marriage. It seems like it's accelerating. So that could be good news.
The thing is, you would expect these, the Muslims who are not okay with this kind of stuff to be, to at some point, see this and turn away, or see their fellow Muslim apologists go into this direction of actually defending and justifying pedophilia, and say, oh, you know what, I'm out of there, I'm out of here, I'm not doing that. But they join in with the fun and justify it as well, and it becomes a popular Islamic position to justify it. Though, of course, the good thing is that the outsiders are then more and more exposed to this stuff, which is why I recently, in the debate with Daniel Kikic, for example, deliberately tricked him into defending pedophilia in front of a completely unfamiliar audience, and people were then disgusted and disturbed. That is the good aspect, but the terrible thing is that Muslims will still be okay with it, still stay within it. And I don't know, my explanation to that is just, you would probably say, humans are wicked and this and that. And
don't tell me what I would say. Yeah, tell me what you think I would say based on your ignorance.
No, I know for a fact that you would say humans are wicked. I know this. How dare you suggest otherwise? To me, it just shows that this is how people are. They are just ready to accept anything. And once they accept a certain worldview, it doesn't really matter what values they hold. They will just adjust their values to fit their worldview, which they adopted for some reason, often not for the best reasons.
The disbelievers think we should be ashamed of some things in Islam. There is not a single thing our prophet did that I myself wouldn't do. This is submission. This is the way. He understands that Islam is defined as submission. You just have to mindlessly obey everything Muhammad said and did. Well, Muslim Cowboy, you didn't hear it from anyone else, but you heard it from us, that your prophet had sex with a prepubescent girl. And so, if you're saying, no, you have to wait till puberty, what's that called? That's not called submission. That's called innovation. Innovation. You're making up your own rules. And you probably don't know this either because you don't seem to know what's in your sources. But Muhammad said, every innovator goes to hell. Innovation is a one-way ticket to hell, and you're an innovator. So you should correct your position. We would recommend you just leave Islam and not have to defend this nonsense. But if you want to still adhere to, if you want to still be a Muslim and still believe, nope, I just have to submit whatever Muhammad did. Okay, then puberty is not a requirement. Stop saying that.
Alhamdulillah. That's
beautiful. Stop. In other words, you may not have known before, so you may have been ignorant. You're not ignorant anymore if you watch this, and we know you're watching it. So, what's that mean? If you say it now, if you continue to pretend that Muhammad waited until I should reach puberty and that this is the rule in Islam, now we cannot give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you don't know what you're talking about. Now we would have to assume that you are a liar, which again you would fit in perfectly in the Dawah community. They love two things: ignorance and deception. You wonder why the true religion would need that. Oh, Islamicize me too, doing every single thing Muhammad did. Maybe I could even be the Muslim Cowboy. Yeah!
Ain't gonna follow no child molester, sex offender, private pretender. Ain't gonna follow no child molester.
Islam's not for me. Islam's not for me.
Islam's not
for me.
Catch y'all next time.